A biome is defined as a terrestrial community characterized by soil and climate with a particular assemblage of plants and animals. Simply put, a biome is an area on land, terrestrial, that pretty much has the same soil and climate throughout and has plants and animals that are adapted to that particular biome. As we go through this section, we're going to take a quick look at the main biomes and their characteristics. So get ready, get your papers ready, wide right, skinny left. See you on the next slide. Different climate zones, temperate, tropical, and polar, mean that not all animals can live in every environment. Animals and plants often have variations in their features that help them survive in changing conditions. This is called tolerance, the ability to survive and reproduce in conditions that are not always the best or optimal. An example of tolerance in plants is the thick skin and spines of a cactus. Think about how these adaptations help it to survive and reproduce. In mammals, many animals molt, as you see here with this bison. How does that adaptation help them tolerate changing conditions? And what can you tell me about the relationship between the birds and the bison here? Tolerance is important in each and every biome. Without it, organisms would not survive. When we consider biomes, we also have to consider regional climates. If I look at this map, Oregon and Montana have similar latitudes, but they have very different climates and very different biological communities. Climate is affected by the presence of mountains, the nearness or proximity to water, and other factors. Oregon is on the Pacific coast. It's very wet. Montana, on the other hand, is on the other side of the mountains, so it tends to be drier. Most biologists would agree that there are 10 major biomes in the world, or types of biomes. Each biome, though, is defined by a unique set of abiotic factors, especially soil and climate. Each also has a common assemblage of biotic factors, plants and animals specifically. Variations occur because of microclimates or unique landforms like rock outcroppings or cliffs, things like that. It should be noted on the map that the lines between the biomes or the lines dividing the biomes are sharp, but in reality they're transitional. The characteristics of one biome become less and less pronounced, and the characteristics of the next biome become more pronounced. They kind of blend into one another. Let's take a look at the general overview of the biomes. Our first stop is the tropical rainforest. Rainforests take up less than 10% of the Earth's land surface. But rainforests are home to more species of animals and plants than all other biomes combined. Think about that. That's pretty amazing. Scientists believe that there are species in the rainforest that are becoming extinct before we can even discover them. Rainforests are characterized by warm temperatures with humid air and very poor, thin soil. Plant life and animal life is very, very diverse. Every animal class is represented in the rainforest. Amphibians, fish, that's a piranha if you're wondering, reptiles, birds, and mammals. About the only kind of plant that you're not going to find in the rainforest is a coniferous tree, although there are leafy evergreens there. You'll also find every other kind of plant imaginable: ferns, vines, orchids, and trees with a canopy or a dense covering and an understory, the layer of shorter trees just below, and then the forest floor. Tarzan lived in the rainforest, which reminds me of my dad's favorite joke. You know what Tarzan's last words were? "Who greased the vine?" Oh, my dad cracked me up. In tropical dry forests, rainfall is seasonal rather than year-round as in the rainforest. The soil is rich but is subject to erosion very often. Most of the forested land in the world is tropical dry forest. Biotic factors here include deciduous trees which shed their leaves during the dry season. Why do you think they do that? Think about what is needed for photosynthesis. Water. The trees are very drought tolerant, and if there's no water, they really can't do much photosynthesis, so they shed their leaves until there's water. There's also a large number of mammals found in the dry forest. Deer and tigers, birds like the hornbill, snakes and lizards, and insects including termites can be found in these forests. The actions of large animals living on a savanna prevent some areas from turning into a dry forest. Similar in temperature but with less rainfall, the tropical savanna has compacted soils and it experiences frequent fires, usually set by lightning. Biotic factors in the tropical savanna include tall grasses and drought-resistant shrubs and trees. Trees are fewer, dotting the landscape near water sources, as you see here in this picture. The interesting thing about the tropical savanna or grassland is that it is also home to the largest herbivores on land, such as the elephant, rhinoceros, zebra, giraffe, as well as large predators like the lion, cheetah, and hyena. Weaver birds and storks are common here as well. Also a variety of insects. We see very few reptiles and no amphibians or fish in the tropical savanna. I wonder why. When you say desert, this picture is typically what you think of. But deserts can also be cold, as you see here in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Abiotic factors in deserts include very little rainfall, less than 25 centimeters per year. The Atacama Desert is so dry it hasn't received any rainfall as long as records have been kept, going back 300 to 400 years. Deserts also see a very large temperature difference between their day and night temperatures, sometimes as much as 60 to 70 degrees. They're not always hot as you imagine, but they still have a large temperature difference. And desert soils are also very rich in mineral content, but they have very little organic matter. Without moisture, decomposers that would live in the soil cannot exist, so there's very little decomposition. Biotic factors living in the desert include plants with a short growth cycle, like cacti or another one called creosote bushes that you see here. Mammals are usually very small, but there are some large predators like coyote. The deserts find birds, like the roadrunner, reptiles, like this horny toad or horny lizard, insects, and arachnids, like the scorpion and tarantulas. Most of them tend to be nocturnal as well. Think about why that is. When are the temperatures cooler? As we move further north away from the equator, our next stop is the temperate grassland. The temperate grassland is characterized by a rich mix of grasses, as the name implies, with very fertile soils and seasonal temperature and precipitation. Seasonal temperatures include warm summers and cool to cold winters. Seasonal rainfall means a rainy season, like spring or winter. Grasslands have fertile soil, as we just said, from decomposition occurring as well as deposition from flooding rivers nearby. In the U.S., much of the grassland has been plowed up and converted to agricultural use, but the grassland across Central Asia, called the steppes, still remain. Biotic factors in the grassland include large grazing herbivores, as in the tropical savanna, although we've pretty much eradicated them here in the U.S. These include bison, mule deer, and water buffalo, predators such as coyote, wolves, and bear. As we said, water buffaloes found in the steppes of Asia, as well as their predators, tigers and crocodiles. Other biotic factors include a variety of birds, reptiles such as snakes, insects, and arachnids. As the name indicates, and as we said earlier, grasslands find a rich variety of grasses and herbs, most of them drought resistant. The one thing you won't find, or the two things you won't find, are amphibians and fish. Also called the chaparral, the temperate woodland shrubland is a mix of woodland and grassland. The summers tend to be hot and dry, while the winters are cool and moist, seeing quite a bit of snowfall or rain. Unlike grasslands, however, the soil here tends to be thinner and poor, and areas tend to be prone to fires, especially in the dry summer season. Biotic factors include a mix of woody trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers. Animal life is much the same as grasslands, but excluding the large herbivores. Coyote, mountain lion, deer, hawks can all be found in the chaparral. And as you can tell, many of the plants and animals occur in more than one biome. These display a great level of tolerance, or the ability to live and reproduce in varying conditions and environments, quite necessary for a species to survive, don't you think? From the chaparral, or woodland and shrubland, we move into the temperate forest. This is found mostly in the eastern U.S. and across much of Europe. It's characterized by warm summers, cool to moderate winters, and year-round rainfall. No rainy season as in the other biomes. The rain year-round allows for the soil to become very fertile. Remember, decomposers need a lot of moisture, so biomes such as this, detritus can be broken down and recycled much more efficiently. Biotic factors include mostly deciduous trees, trees that shed their leaves as the cold temperature and less sunlight occurs, like you see here in this picture. Some conifers can be found here as well, but you'll find mosses and ferns growing in the warmer months, since there is a steady supply of moisture. Animal life is abundant as well. Deer, bobcat, raccoon, possum, a variety of birds and insects can all be found here. Fewer reptiles, though. Can you guess why? As we move further north, we find ourselves in the largest of all the land-based biomes, the coniferous or boreal forest, or also known as the taiga. The coniferous forest holds 22% of the world's carbon store in North America. It's also home to some of the largest oil and gas deposits in the world. This biome stretches across the northern parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. Temperatures are mild to cold during the spring, summer, and fall. Winters are cold. Rainfall and precipitation, like snow, is abundant during the spring, fall, and winters. Summers tend to be cool and dry. Because of cold temperatures, decomposers are not very prevalent in the soil, so soils tend to be poor and not very fertile. Biotic factors include coniferous trees, trees like spruce, pine, and fir that have needle-like leaves and their seeds in cones to help them survive the long winters. Animal life includes large herbivores like elk, deer, and moose, bear, bobcats, weasels, owls, and hawks. Few insects and reptiles are found here. I wonder why. Most people think of the tundra as a frozen wasteland that looks like this, but nothing could be further from the truth. So let's take a look at our last biome on our biome tour. Let's put on our warm coats, our mint